YouTube! Oh, hello, YouTube.
Hello once again, wide world of YouTube. Evil Food Guru, your cultural and planetary savior here, coming at you to explain why the PC master race is dead wrong about Dark Souls Remastered. For weeks now, people have been disparaging the Dark Souls Remaster, mostly a vocal group of PC players talking about how the remasters in its current state is extremely underwhelming, should have been redone from the ground up, and that what they're releasing as a quote-unquote remaster is how the game should have originally released for the PC in 2012. While I definitely understand the position and even empathize with it, I'm going to explain why people, PC gamers, console gamers, non-gamers, whoever has an opinion, anybody that's saying Dark Souls Remaster is crap, I'm going to explain why they're dead wrong. They need a little bit of evil kung fu thrown right at them.
People like to throw out the Skyrim example. They say, Bethesda, when they released Skyrim Remastered, it was free. They have so much goodwill and compassion for their fans. This is crap. Bethesda released Skyrim Remastered for free because they're introducing their curated storefront to the game. Basically, they're adding microtransactions to the game and then putting it under the guise of a free upgrade. Oh, here, take this free upgrade because we love you, our fans, while in the back door trying to get into your wallet.
Could Bandai Namco release Dark Souls Remastered as a free upgrade to existing PC customers? Of course they could. They can absolutely do whatever they want with their game. But unlike Bethesda, they don't have any way to monetize content. There's no DLC, there's no microtransactions. There'd be no way for them to recoup their investment. Before getting into the nitty-gritty and explaining why I think Dark Souls Remaster is a great value proposition, I do want to address the PC version head-on and the complaints people have with that. They do have valid complaints, but it comes from an area of misunderstanding, really. So we need to break it down from the beginning. Explore the PC port, originally the 2012 PC port, see where that went wrong, what went into that, and where we're at now with this Dark Souls Remaster release. The original Dark Souls released on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 platforms in September of 2011. There was no PC version announced, there was no PC version planned at that point.
After an online petition asking Bandai Namco to port Dark Souls over to the PC acquired more than 93,000 signatures, Bandai Namco announced that they would explore the option of porting the game over to the PC, and shortly afterwards announced that a PC port would be coming soon. At this point in time, From Software had split into two major teams. The first major team, headed up by Miyazaki, the creator of Demon's Souls and Dark Souls, had moved on to do work on Bloodborne for the PlayStation 4, while a secondary team, or the B team if you will, continued to work on DLC for Dark Souls 1 and started the early planning for Dark Souls 2. This left little time and personnel for the port of Dark Souls to the PC. From Software announced in a statement that they had no experience with the PC platform, but that they would do their best to bring the game from the Xbox 360 over to the PC. Bandai Namco eventually announced that Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition would be released for the PC August 2012. It would include the entire main game, the campaign DLC, and a new online arena for PvP interactions. Due to From Software's lack of familiarity with the PC platform, limited time and manpower, the PC port of Dark Souls was pretty shoddy to say the least. It was locked at 720p, capped at 30 frames a second, and had no increased texture resolution of any kind. A good gaming rig at the time could easily crunch those numbers up to 1080p, 60 frames a second, with a whole bevy of new effects work and texture details added to it. Within hours of release, Dark Souls on the PC was modded, removing both the frame rate and resolution caps. Over the next few months and years, more and more mods were added to the game. DS Fix is still currently the definitive and near requisite PC mod. Dark Souls Prepare to Die PC Edition received no more official support from Bandai Namco or From Software. It lived and died in the release state and only through the fans and modding community did it live on the PC. Numerous graphical edition mods were added to the PC version of Dark Souls over the years. These ranged from anything from improved texture work to all new textures and effects, but each of them had their own problems. One would increase something, but it would also introduce a loading problem or a stuttering problem, streaming problems. The problem was that as good as any of the mods were, they were still built on the same shoddy framework that the game released with. Even this current day, late May 2018, top gaming rigs running DS Fix have a hard time running Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition smoothly in places. Blighttown still has frame rate drops, and overall, the product is just not very smooth. At the end of the day, though it was never planned by Bandai Namco or From Software, the PC crowd did get their port of Dark Souls. It didn't run very smooth and continues not to run very smooth, and the online population has dwindled to only a few dozen hardcore dedicated players. Now I'll go over the original console versions of Dark Souls prior to Dark Souls Remastered coming out. It released for both PS3 and 360 in September of 2011. It was 720p on the 360, even lower on the PS3, rumored to be around 560p. The game came with a blurry depth of field effect, terrible anti-aliasing, frame rate drops into single digits in areas such as Blighttown, and had this weird motion blur effect on it that just made everything look like someone either rubbed Vaseline all over their screens or they were really having a good time playing Dark Souls and wiped something else on their screens. Dark Souls, a game that lives and dies off of precise timing, preemptive maneuvers, and reactive responses, was ultimately let down by poor optimizations and hardware limits. The ultimate quality of Dark Souls shone through, but the game was not a smooth or fluid experience by any standards of measure. Dark Souls was a great game, not because of its performance, but in spite of it. The PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 versions of Dark Souls each had their own performance issues, but the 360 version was considered to be the definitive console release as it ran at a higher locked resolution and the frame rate averaged out higher as well, though it did drop down into single digit numbers in areas, which made the game nearly unplayable. You had to trudge through those areas as fast as possible, otherwise you'd go crazy through frustration. Even simplistic tasks such as navigating the environment or engaging multiple enemies, aiming long-range weapons, things of this nature, they could become unwieldy and tiresome to try and perform. The performance issues were so inconsistent and the frame rate was so poor in places. When Dark Souls was added to the back compatibility catalog for Xbox One, it ran pretty much like for like on the 360 version. There may be a frame rate increase here or there, but there might be frame rate decreases in other places, so it basically balanced out and was the same thing. This all changed with the release of the Xbox One X. Now running Dark Souls 360 version through backwards compatibility on Xbox One X, you did get significant improvements in frame rate in Blighttown and other trouble areas. Still not a locked 30 frames per second by any means, and there was some nicer texture filtering, so the game performed a little better overall and was by far the definitive console edition. I mean, the 360 already was, and this was just a better version, so obviously this is now the definitive way to play Dark Souls on console, prior to Dark Souls Remastered coming out. The biggest argument I can make against a from the ground up remake of Dark Souls is that From Software is busy on other projects, and Bandai Namco hired this out to third-party developers. Q-Lock is doing the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC editions, and Virtuous is doing the Nintendo Switch version. This means an outside studio would be essentially reinterpreting the game according to their own artistry and vision. With a gaming masterpiece, or really any art masterpiece like Dark Souls, I would much rather have the original vision preserved and presented in a way that the artist originally intended than someone else from the outside coming in and reinterpreting the stuff. Sometimes it can work out, such as the Shadow of Colossus remake for PlayStation, but sometimes it also has weird side effects like the Master Chief Collection, or more specifically the Halo 1 remaster. Yeah, it has much better graphics and everything like that, but the art style is a little bit different. It takes away something from the game overall. I would much rather just play the game in the original artwork, running the best it can, and optimized fully, and enjoy it that way. It's the same with film. I wouldn't want someone to do a bunch of jump cuts and edits and add in dialogue or new scenes or characters in something like The Godfather, which stands on its own as a masterpiece. But there's the odd outlier like George Lucas's Episode 1 Star Wars, I've seen quite a few edits on the internet that actually make that film much better. It's only about 30 minutes long when you edit out all the bad stuff, but still, sometimes editing can help. But I'd much rather overall enjoy the artist's original vision. Even if good or bad, I just want to know what they were thinking at the time. You know what I mean? I want to experience what they wanted me to experience. If I want to make something different, I can make something different myself or play something different. I want to experience the artist's original vision. If their vision is good. I won't be watching episode 1 again anytime soon. The games industry as a whole must be a uniquely frustrating environment for artists to work in. You envision something, you put it down on paper, you plan it all out, but then your vision has to be compromised based on hardware limitations. What's nice about something like a remaster is you can take your original vision you had, which had to be restricted before, and now you can expand it out. It'll run properly the way you wanted it to. You can clean it up so people can see all the hard work that you put into it. It's very interesting. I mean, film does the same thing every once in a while. They'll enhance an old movie with new special effects or something like that, but more often than not, when they do that, they change something and it's a little off. The original vision should be preserved, which is what a remastering is. It's the original version presented in the best light that it can be. Well, now that I've blathered on like an unfocused lunatic for about, what was it, 14, 15 months, something like that, however long this video has been going for, let's actually address the remaster itself, since that's the subject of the video. Dark Souls Remastered runs Dark Souls as it was originally envisioned and far beyond the capabilities of its console launch hardware. Are the graphics redone to modern AAA standards? Well, no. Are there new enemies and new gameplay thrown in that completely change the experience? No, there aren't. Are there countless never before seen on console details visible for the first time, making this far and away the superior console version? Is it locked to a solid 60 frames a second, even in the stress points, such as Blighttown? Oh yes, yes it is. Are there new effects that help modernize the game without completely changing the aesthetic of the original? Yes, there are. Whole swaths of new players will be joining Dark Souls and experiencing it for the first time. This should only be seen as a great thing. I personally look forward to countless hours of new, pristine, jolly cooperation, clever invasions, honorable PvP matches, and a nice little side of trolling unsuspecting noobs. There's new lighting, just slightly retouched, nothing like groundbreaking or anything that changes anything fundamentally. The original aesthetic is maintained, just it looks a little bit better now. There are new effects, such as fire, particle effects, blood effects. The soul items and bodies are different, all improved in more detail. The blood stains that dead players leave behind on the ground are now bright red, hard to miss. Same with the orange notes people leave on the ground. So now when you're trolling noobs with saying, hey, try jumping off a cliff or something like that, they'll really be able to see it from a long distance away and feel extra angry that they went so far over there to read the note and then fall to their deaths. There have been quality of life additions added to the game. For example, there's a bonfire down by Vamos, the skeletal blacksmith, past the catacombs, which is great because before you had to trudge through about 45 miles of catacombs and enemies just to get to one blacksmith. Items no longer auto-populate onto your quick use bar, so only what you personally put on there is there. Holding down on your D-pad, as in Dark Souls 3, will take you to your first inventory slot in your quick use item, which should be your Estus Flask unless you change that. And if you did change that, you're a fool. Button remapping is a huge one for me, and the only button I'm going to remap is the jump button. The original Dark Souls had the jump button and the sprint button on the B or circle button, and it was ridiculous. There are so many times I missed precise jumps because I was using the same button to sprint, then you had to release it and then re-tap it to hit the jump, and then it would just slightly go either to the left or the right where I was aiming. Now I can actually map it onto the left stick, such as I could in the second and third game, and I can now jump around like a precise ninja, like a cat ninja. Like a ninja cat who is very precise in ninja things. The blood effect that now comes out of enemies is bright red. It's a little too bright for my taste, but the volume of it is great. It definitely has more of a blood-borne look to it. So there's lots of blood now, and little details like that really help immerse people into the game. Plus, it keeps it looking more modern. If you just took the original assets, as most of the game is, and you left the original effects on there, they'd be a little underwhelming. But now they've been touched up and brightened up a little bit, but nothing that actually changes the fundamental original. Having played the original Dark Souls for over 1,000 hours, the same with Dark Souls 3, and a couple hundred hours in Dark Souls 2, yes, it does deserve less love because it's the inferior game, and I will kung fu you if you disagree. However, having played so much of this game, seeing it in the new clarity and crispness of the graphics, the high def, especially I'm playing on an Xbox One X on a 4K TV, it looks fantastic. I see so many details in the same artwork from before that I've never noticed before. It's awesome. I love it. That combined with the 60 frames a second, the smoothness, the fluidity, the responsiveness of the controls, to me actually makes the game much easier because you can now move so much more precisely and quickly. Your timing and reactions are so much better. This is the way to play this game. In conclusion, don't listen to all the naysayers out there and the haters saying, oh, this is a waste because it's not from a ground up remake or anything like that. This is the original game remastered, which is what it's called, a remaster, in the clearest way and best way it can be. It's presented on console, at least, in a way that's never before been seen, and it's completely smooth. The console version is now smoother than the current, well, before the Dark Souls remaster, the current PC edition, which was the Prepare to Die edition. Even on top of the line hardware with all the mods installed, you couldn't have it run this smooth. So yeah, it sucks in a way that they're cutting out the old PC game and they're making you buy the remaster, but it's $20, and for a game that with this much content, that's crazy not to do it. On consoles, it's $40. I'll gladly pay that $40. I'll gladly put another 1,000 hours into this game or more. This is, if you've ever been curious about Dark Souls, or you've been a fan of Dark Souls, either it's 1, 2, or 3, Demon Souls, Bloodborne, anything, you owe it to yourself to spend that $40, buy this game, and give it a try. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, and you can come kung fu me if you must. Think twice though, because my evil kung fu will beat your whiny kung fu any day of the week. To me, even without the way this game looks and runs, which is just fantastic, even if it released in a shoddier state than it is, just the fact that it's so popular now as a series, there's going to be so many more players coming in, new players, there's going to be new opportunities to invade, to co-op, to troll people, there's going to be new messages written, there's going to be new blood stains all over the place. That's fantastic. I'm excited about this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, this game does look fantastic, it does run fantastic, and I am glad to have it. If you like anything I have to say, or you want to see more videos like this, like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video if you could, get the word out there that the Foo was in town now and he's going to change things up a bit. If you don't like this and you just want me to shut the hell up, also let me know in the comments. I'm new to all this crap, but I'd like to learn anything that I can. Just remember, if you have a problem, you can always kung fu it.